All right. So there are a couple things. There's a kind of a good news, bad news situation here. The bad news is the last administration did some things, a lot of bad things, a lot of evil things. Some things are positively frightening. And in fact, we'll get to one of those things in a moment. The good news is there are some really great red state AGs out there now. A bench, if you will, an inspiring group of people who actually have guts to fight back against things. And of course, surprise, surprise, Florida happens to be leading the charge on this like they've been doing for years. Joining me now, James Uthmeier, AG, Attorney General of the wonderful state of Florida. Okay, James, Ryan Routh was one hole ahead of Donald Trump with a weapon, an optic, body armor, which he wasn't wearing, which is kind of weird, getting ready to murder the soon-to-be president of the United States of America. What concerns me a great deal before we get to your portion of it is the Biden administration stonewalled you on it?
They did, yes. I mean, our governor issued an executive order right away directing our law enforcement to proceed with our own state investigation because we were worried that the radical Biden administration was not going to pursue justice, even though you had a case of an assassination attempt, a terrorist attack in our state on a Florida resident, on a former president and a popular presidential candidate. We feared that they were not going to pursue justice. And indeed, once we started that investigation, they stonewalled us. They wouldn't give us access to the crime scene. They wouldn't give us access to case files. They would not cooperate with us in any way. So this investigation stalled because of Biden and the Dems for over 220 days. Well, after AG Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel got in there, everything changed. We started working together right away, and we were excited to finally get the evidentiary basis to formally press charges last week.
James, I'm not going to ask you to make wild accusations, of course. I know you can't do that and wouldn't do that anyway. I would do that, but I'm not going to do that right now. So perhaps you could give me an innocent explanation why any president, Democrat, Republican, anybody, why would you stonewall Florida's Attorney General from investigating somebody who was about to assassinate a politician in this country? That's just doesn't seem to be a left or right thing. That seems to be a very basic thing, unless, of course, you wanted him to succeed. What's the innocent explanation?
I don't know that there's a good explanation. I think they made some allegations that they were worried about us messing up the investigation. But as far as I can see, you had a couple hundred days go by and they weren't doing anything. Justice should not be partisan. It should not be based on what party is in charge. Justice should be based on putting bad guys away. And I don't care if there's a Democrat or Republican in the White House. If you have a former president, a presidential candidate who someone is trying to kill, the justice systems at the federal and state levels should be working closely together to ensure that justice is levied. And we intend to do that. Again, we pressed charges last week. We'll be bringing this case as swiftly as we can. And we'd like to make sure that we see a conviction in very good due time.
Okay, could you lay out for us the allegations, the charges you're bringing? What did this guy do? What weapons did he have specifically? What is this guy's story? We know we've heard these internet rumors that the guy was overseas recruiting mercenaries. There's all kinds of wild things out there. What do we actually know?
Yeah, well, you've got really what should be an open shut case here. There's a lot of speculation, a lot, related to the investigation I cannot share today. We do have charging docs and evidence that will be made public very, very soon. But you got a guy here who's been charged with two main counts, attempted murder as well as a state terrorism charge. There's also a separate state felony attempted murder case because he fled the scene, moved across counties into Martin County, and actually collided with a family vehicle. And unfortunately, a young girl in that vehicle was paralyzed as a result of the collision. So this is a bad guy, and we've brought several charges, and expect things to move more quickly now.
Okay, let's talk about working with the current FBI versus the old one. You mentioned Kash Patel. What's that been like to have an FBI that actually helps?
It's pretty refreshing. I tell you what, the FBI, hearing those three letters used to kind of give me the shivers because, You weren't sure if you were going to get anybody on the other end of the phone that wanted to work with you. It seemed very much like bureaucracy, not a bureau. Today, it's been very different. You've got somebody on the other line that wants to investigate, that wants to move quickly, obviously is going to follow the law and respect rule of law, but at the end of the day, work to put bad people away.
Let's talk about red state attorney generals and their role in this country on a broader scale, because we won't always have Donald Trump leading the country. We won't have Kash Patel leading the FBI. And we saw what can happen for 4 years under Joe Biden. What role does the AG play? What role should the AG play?
Yeah, AGs are on the front lines to ensure that you've got safe streets, that our families are protected, our children are safe, and that our citizens, have rule of law. AGs are here to make sure we don't have local government officials that, want to be derelict of their duties, that don't want to enforce the law. We've got some prosecutors in this state that from time to time say they're not going to enforce categories of law. We've held them accountable everywhere we can. We've got a great governor who suspends them from office if they do cross the line and violate their constitutional duties. We've got other actions that we can bring as well. In the immigration context, AGs are on the front lines of ensuring we have sovereignty as states, that we have borders, that we are protecting our citizens from the dangers that come when you've got, undocumented individuals that move into the state, often associated with narcotics, fentanyl trafficking, very dangerous components. We're here to step up and ensure that we are going to work with the federal government. We're going to work with ICE to find people that don't belong here and get them out of our state before they cause serious harm.
How do we handle things like prosecutorial discretion, as it's known in your world? You already mentioned the prosecutors. These prosecutors, it's not just a Florida thing, sadly. It's across the United States of America. These prosecutors get into office funded by left-wing money, and they just let criminals out of jail. They don't prosecute people, and it's left a lot of people in this country pretty exasperated with the justice system.
Yeah, look, prosecutorial discretion, it was a big deal to the founders. It's a key tenet of our legal enforcement system. Prosecutorial discretion is important to our state attorneys and prosecutors to give them flexibility to negotiate, to plea things down, ultimately to decide where to make priorities. You've got never-ending crimes out there, and we've got to figure out what is truly a priority. But at the end of the day, you've got these leftist radical Soros prosecutors that decide they don't want to enforce the law at all. And they do so in the name of prosecutorial discretion. But that discretion, that does not give you the ability to delineate policies or broad categories where you say you're not going to enforce certain laws. It doesn't give you the ability to tell your teams, we're not going to bring these cases. We're going to let dangerous people out on bail who may end up, and as we've seen in some jurisdictions, commit heinous crimes, commit murder in the days that follow. That is not permissible. We're not going to allow it in Florida. And I'm glad to see that some other states are following our lead and ensuring that these types of individuals do not get to drop the ball and put the safety of families in danger.
I appreciate you very much. Keep going, sir. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.